Welcome. These will be my thoughts on Arrow Season 3, Episode 3, Corto Maltese. The episode is rated TV-14, so this video there will be spoilers for the episode and the entire Arrowverse leading up to it, but not after it. And another episode that I absolutely loved. I hope I don't sound too off. I have been sneezing a little bit. I'll try not to do so during this video. Yes, I think we will just... Oh, right. Deleted scene. Yeah, basically just connective tissue, just noting that they found the... There was something they discovered about Shaw, cut for time, most likely. Yeah, so it was great seeing, some of what Thea went through in the 6 months. And the point about, she wants to never hurt again. And that's one of those things where that could be a villain origin story, but it could also mean that she is getting to a point where, like right now, I think I'm worried that this is, she's going to do something awful before, but I don't think that it means that she cannot be saved. And, because she didn't say she wanted to hurt someone else. And, let's see, I guess that is the entire flashback. And yeah, we find out, the what's it called? Yeah, Arrow is struggling to find, yeah, it was another dead end. And I think that brings us to the, yeah, Felicity, as usual, rambling about, Index. And let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of thought that her taking the job for Ray meant that she was leaving Team Arrow on account of, Ray having just taken the company from Oliver, but evidently that is not the case, which I am glad about, both because I really like her on Team Arrow, and also because, like, she hasn't told any of them yet. Like, they just know that she still has a job, and as of this episode, that it's not, what was it called, Tech City, the store. And let's see, it could be really compelling when it's found out, and I wonder if she's going to tell them or they're going to find out on their own. And let's see, I think... Yeah, actually, I forget if I mentioned that in my video on the Flash episode. Was that episode 3? I guess it was episode 3, wasn't it? About, like, if Iris and or Eddie tell Joe, or if he finds out, without them. And it turned out he did already know, but yeah, that's the kind of thing that you don't want them finding out without you telling them so that you can really explain. And let's see, I think the next thing was Dig. Oh wait, yeah, they talk about how they have to bring Thea back, and that's also, I am really looking forward to seeing how that's going to. I'm so glad they didn't drag that out, because, like, I'm not hugely surprised that she's going back to Starling, but yeah, that's gonna be really, really interesting seeing. And yeah, Dig, takes a few days off, claims he's going to change a diaper or more, and she says she'll believe it when she sees it. And I guess she's really worried about weaponized incompetence because she sends him away. And yeah, really great job on the whole Shaw subplot, because I did not at all see those various developments coming. And I think that brings us to Laurel at AA. Oh wait, no, yeah, that brings us to her going to the guy who's covering for the other person, and yeah, he calls her on, "You're not really angry at me over this. There's something else," And I really appreciated, yeah, he like offers to help with, training. And by the end of the episode, she does take it. So, and let's see, that brings us to the second of the flashbacks, I think. So, yeah, the thing of, him showing that pain don't hurt. And that is also like, holy crap. And by the end of the episode, yeah, Thea doesn't even react. Like, she just wipes off the hot coffee. There's no, like, she clearly doesn't feel any pain from it. And Oliver definitely noticed and is worried. I think that is yeah, and I like, Roy, like, the thing about, what are you doing? Well, I'm going with, no, I mean, you can't bring a bow on the plane. This is Kill Bill. And I think that does bring us to the, yeah, Laurel in AA, and, yeah, she's not telling them, but she is, we're seeing she really is struggling with the fire inside after Sarah died. That rhymed. And yeah, then we have Erica becoming Sherika, and yeah, 8 assault charges. And that point about, like, what was it, like, as soon as cops bring badges into AA, the drunks stop showing. And that is an actual thing. Like, it is very, and it is very, very difficult to help when there are situations of domestic abuse. And so they arrive on Corto, and Malcolm was ready to put an arrow in Arrow. Is that ironic or just coincidence? And, he gets, he finds out where she is. And I just want there to be an outtake where is it, Mia came all this way and it's the wrong house. But yeah, that is kind of clever. It's close enough to her real name that she is gonna struggle less to remember. And apparently, according to IMDb trivia, it's also a comics reference, so great job on that. But, yeah, I guess I've made my point about it. Yeah, it is a different name because, like, someone might recognize her if, yeah. And yeah, we get a flashback of, now it's her turn to not react during the, yeah. And he explains to her, this is a chemical burn. it will burn more than anything you have ever felt. Possibly so much that you could watch that entire movie and somehow think that it's in favor of toxic masculinity. Or at least purposefully so. A case could be made that it is not quite careful enough to critique it and never ever like make it look cool. But I would definitely say there's clear. We're gonna move on. If you haven't already, make sure you watch the excellent analysis of the movie by Maggie Mae Fish. Anyway, I guess while I'm recommending, if you haven't already watched, there is an excellent video called Snow White, the First Critique of Them All by the Writer's Block, which, yeah, heavily recommended. And, yeah, we do see she can't quite do it, understandably so. And then, by the end, yeah, after her training, she is able to. And, yeah, Roy is... Oh, wait, first it's Oliver, right. Oliver approaches Thea, and she does hug him. I was wondering if, how far that was going to go. I did notice she was more forgiving of him than Roy. And that is, of course, they knew each other for their whole lives. And let's see, and also she does not know quite, she knows that, both of them have lied to her, but she doesn't know the extent of Oliver's lies. And I think that's when Laurel, yeah, the cops can't handle it, so she does indeed put on Sarah's jacket. Again, really appreciate they're getting there already instead of dragging out. Like, this is there are shows that would just have had, episode after episode where every so often Laurel like looks at the jacket and we can say, oh, she's considering it. But no, she's there. And, she got in over her head. She wasn't quite ready to fight him. And it's, it's one of those cases where, I don't speak from experience, but I know just enough to know, like, among other things, one of her rookie mistakes is bringing a weapon and then losing it to the person she's fighting, But there's also the element that, he is more used to engaging in violence. She has self-defense training, but there's a difference between that and then going out and starting violence with someone. A lot of self-defense is indeed, as the title would imply, self-defense. It's not about, it doesn't really prepare you for a fight, especially when you initiate. It gives you the tools to protect yourself if someone else assaults you, and those are two very different situations. Her anger over Sarah, understandable though it is, lowering her inhibitions. It's taking away her, careful thinking and planning, which, like, she used to really demonstrate. She used to really, yeah. And I think, like, contrast this with how, back in season 1, for example, her work helping people, she was 100% in control there. She had her life together still. And let's see, I guess that is... And I thought it was also compelling, this thing of, she says, I hear you like to hit women. What about one that fights back. And then when he wins, he says, "You're right, it's better when they fight back," which, yeah, there are men who like to hurt women who do prefer. So that is, yeah, they did a really great job on him. He is so despicable, despite fairly little screen time. Like, he does not have very much time to get that across. Let's see. That brings us to the is that maybe when Dig and Oliver go for Shaw, and it is very clever that, when Shaw pulls a knife, it subtly plants the idea in our head that maybe he is a bad guy, because like this is just, it's just contact with someone from his side. Why would he react like that if he is still on that side? But as soon as he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just a little jumpy," we're like, well, I guess that is understandable, considering the circumstance. So yeah, very nicely done. So when it's revealed that he's the seller, that actually completely, there was that bit of setup. We just didn't realize that that's where it was going. And yeah, I like that, Dig explains himself and then lets go. He doesn't try to remove the knife. And yeah, was it like authentication? Like, yeah, unfortunate. And I think that's when we get another flashback. And yeah, we have the thing about, I can't treat you like my daughter. I have to treat you like my student. And he knocks her down, talking about, like, basically, trial by fire, forged in fire. And she gets one of the weapons, is ready to defend herself, and he says, now we can begin. And it is one of those things, like, if he had just said, grab a weapon, it wouldn't have been quite the same. It's very wax on, wax off. You have to demonstrate something so that the student remembers it, rather than merely lecture. Because, like, that was a test and she passed it. She could have failed if she just, like, lay down and whimpered or something, which would have been understandable, to be clear. She knows who he is. He kills people. He tried to... Well, he did end up killing a lot of people. So it's... Yeah. And I guess that brings us to the... Yeah, so Roy talks to her. I was a little surprised. I was thinking she would say something along the lines of, "You don't get to like the hair." But I did really appreciate him, he's asking, but he's not pushing too hard, and he does accept her no. Like, later he tells Oliver, "I don't think she's coming back." That's, again, like, Roy in the past sometimes, wouldn't really let things go to the point where it hurt people he cared about. So he really has grown a lot. And I guess... I feel like that's maybe the next time we say... Yeah, so Laurel, in the hospital, and, still not telling Quentin about Sarah. And, yeah, she's not letting go even though she got hurt. Like, the abuser, serial abuser, not, losing to her, didn't tell her that this was wrong for her. It told her that she needs training before she proceeds. And that, again, an example of her spiraling, because that's very much a situation where you really take stock. Like, if you get yourself hurt, even if you were trying to do the right thing, and this was very much like the guy was not looking for her. So, I'm not saying she deserved it, to be clear. Absolutely not. I'm not victim blaming. And I guess that pretty much brings us to the so yeah. With Shaw, Dig goes that it was also really great, Aller, he's a friendly. So we like it's reiterating to the audience as well, he's friendly, wink. And the thing about, aren't you worried about them seeing the car? So it's like, this is suspicious. Why are you sus? Am I gonna have to throw you out in the airlock? Is anybody else still making references to that? I haven't played it yet. I do own a copy. It was free on Epic. I might play it at some point, but well, yeah. I wouldn't be mentioning it if I wasn't willing to play. I think I will play it at some point if anybody's still playing when I get around to it. Anyway, and he handed him a gun, but it does not fire. And he, let's see, he gets away with, it's really, really clever. Now I remember what I've been forgetting. Felicity at work, which I appreciate. It's very, very different from working for Oliver, and yeah, she lays out the law. And I like the thing about, like, good morning, or is it, I've been awake all night. I have had 3 lattes. Am I talking really fast? And, she's like, I am not getting you a latte, because, that was one of the things with Oliver. It was once. And now she said, not even once. And he's like, no, I was saying your executive assistant could get you a latte, or are you just anti-latte? Sorry, anti-latte. And I guess that, but yeah, and the thing, so I'm gonna go to work. Then why are you leaving your office? No, this is your office. These are very, very different terms for employment. And he also doesn't really put up a fight. Like, he just makes a note of it when she, like, asks for time off and she's taking personal calls during work hours and all this stuff. And I like the thing about, he says, someone with a mental health condition blew up this thing, she's like, I'm sure they had a good reason. You're not doing the best at covering. And let's see. Yeah, I think that does bring us to the there's definitely one more thing I wanted to say about. Yeah, she does indeed reconstruct the thing. And I like the thing about, I'm sensing a theme here. Because she likes geeking out over this stuff, so she doesn't stop and think, like, I don't need to mention every individual part that doesn't work. And Dig calls and she's like, I'm in a meeting. And then, Laurel calling to help, so she can find the guy. And she's like, I need you to Google his cell phone. You mean ping his GPS? And then, like, is this a friend favor? Are we friends? What? Laurel's not quite used to Felicity's quirkiness yet. And let's see, I guess that brings us to the... Right, I appreciated during AA the point made about, essentially this is taking over for the drinking, the alcoholism, the desire for revenge, which also tells us this is not going to be easy for her to stop if she does at some point. Like, I can imagine what they'll do is have her for a while be an anti-hero and then end up becoming a hero. Like, maybe she crosses a line or comes so close to it. And I don't know, maybe even joins Team Arrow, possibly. Certainly she has enough of a connection that it could end up, but Oliver definitely is going to struggle with that, and they could do something about him being overprotective of her or something, which we already know she does not like when the men in her life are like treating her like she's made of porcelain. And I guess that brings us to the... Yeah, I think that is when... Yeah, I also like the thing that, so I got you a return ticket too, which has us, waiting with anticipation there at the end. Is she gonna show? Well, okay, I guess by the end we know that she... Anyway, seeing them sitting there waiting, as we also hoped that she would indeed come back with them. And I liked her telling Roy she didn't leave only because of him and his lies. I really liked when, so Oliver says he's going to and ultimately doesn't. He tells her some of the secrets. He tells her what really happened, because she's like, you never told me what happened to our father. And he's like, I didn't tell you enough. And so Shaw, really clever with, the buyer is there, but there is a buyer coming, but it's tomorrow. And I too wondered if these might be Argus, but it is genuinely so cool that he hired a small army to protect him, and that they're gonna have to defend defend against them. Team Arrow members, I mean, are gonna have to. And the thing about, he made bow and arrow from the hotel room, and which was also really cool. They have to take out this small army without any trick arrows, just regular bow and arrow, and then the handgun. And then he's like, what? I never said I couldn't fire a gun. And I think, does that bring us to the... and that's again them using the fact that now there are 2 color arrows on the team. Like, there's no way that Oliver on his own would have been, if he was the only archer in the scene. And the hand-to-hand fighting was also so badass. Like, what was that, like 3-on-1 at one point? Like, holy crap. And the thing about, like, soft targets, which I appreciate him translating for the audience. And one of the targets is Layla. Like, wow. You are asking for... Do you not know what kind of show you're on, Shaw? You are just asking to, be kicked 6 ways from Sunday. And, Shaw tries to leave in the vehicle, and Dig pulls out his best Tom Cruise impression. I mean, running, not, being a abusive husband, creeper, cult member. But that was really cool. He jumps and he just, throws him out of a moving vehicle. Like, maybe I say this too much, but I do really love when they implement moving vehicles in action scenes. It just adds so many new elements. If you fall off a moving vehicle, that's so much worse than just, you know, falling regularly on, yeah. Anyway, I guess that brings us to the, right, and I liked Ray, so, you know, let me guess, long story. You have a lot of those. I did not love the look on his face when he had the reconstructed data, you know, and it is like she also accidentally helped him take over the company. Yeah. And I feel like there's at least one more thing I wanted to make sure to note. I'm also a little bit worried and excited. At the same time excited about Malcolm saying, "I will see you soon," and basically admitting, yeah, he threw the fight so that the could could go. And I don't know if this is necessarily not his plan, or possibly that he's adjusting his plan, because he was definitely going to shoot Oliver. And I think that does. Yeah, I really like Oliver pointing out to Laurel about, you know, why he can't train her. And yeah, the anonymous tip to get rid of the guy, which is also, you know, that doesn't mean that she does at least appreciate right now she would not be able to take him on in a fight, and she's not going to wait until she can to get him, you know, away from Erica. I also appreciated the element that, you know, when Erica is sharing, she, you know, she blames herself. There is that is one of the problems with, you know, when you try to help someone out of a domestic abuse situation, you know, a lot of the people in that situation, you know, say, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have done that." And like, you cannot deserve to be assaulted. That is simply not a thing. And I guess that, you know, as I've said before, violence should only ever be deployed in the as a last resort. I feel like there was maybe one more thing. Right, I appreciated Felicity reading Iris's blog about the Flash, the red streak, and I guess that pretty much. Hmm. Oh, right. Of course. Yeah, the tease at the end. Where's Sarah? And yeah, I mean, it was just a matter of time. Of course, she would show and confront specifically Oliver, because, like, yeah, she's worried about Sarah and does not really trust Oliver. Like, she worked with him because Sarah was, but this is a very, very different situation. And we already know, you know, she doesn't really to let things happen that she doesn't want to happen. She fights. And I guess that is I feel like there's at least one more thing I really wanted to say. Um, I hmm. Mm, there's definitely, I don't know, maybe I'll remember before I record the next episode of this show or possibly Flash, and then I'll put it there so you don't have to sit and just watch me try to remember something. But yeah, really, really looking forward to more. They're continuing to really, have deeply compelling character stuff. And let's see, I guess, um, hmm. No, yeah, that is everything for this episode. Struggling to think of a joke to end it on. I am not sure that I have one, but yeah, I'll just very briefly note here at the end. So since this episode brings up domestic abuse, it is worth noting that there is a disturbingly high, like ideally it would be 0, but even if you'd say, oh, that level, like, maybe can't be helped, the percentage of American law enforcement individuals who have, who engage in domestic abuse, yeah, uh, scary high. And that's something that should maybe, you know, maybe these people should actually be punished for that. But it is very much a, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail kind of thing. All they know is violence. There's that whole, was it like sheep and sheepdog thing, which I think it was Dead Domain who pointed out, that's part of how we got ICE.